Hey everyone, my name is Jeff. This week I'm going to show you how I make a fused glass platter using the strip construction method. Now there's a couple of ways of making this and I will talk about them shortly. And just as a reminder, this is the first in a series of projects that I asked you to vote on a couple of weeks ago. Welcome to Rocket Rose Art. This fused glass platter we're going to make today uses the strip construction method. It's a method that's been around for a while and it can be done in a few different ways. A couple of those I'll talk about at the end of the video. The method we're going to use today is fairly straightforward. You cut a whole heap of 6mm strips of glass and then you assemble them all together before then fuse them together. The one we're doing today is based upon the one I asked you to vote about. Different colours and only half the size, but it will still have a central feature. Now before we get into that, as usual, if you've got any questions or comments, put them in the comment section below and I certainly will answer them as best I can. If you like the video, hit the like button, and if you want to see more of them, don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Don't forget, all the glass that I use is Bullseye 90 COE, so if you're using 96 you will have to adjust the firing schedules I'll give you, and always keep in mind that not every kiln fires the same. Now when I'm firing on my shelves I use thin fire paper, and when I'm slumping into the moulds I use boron nitride. The materials you'll need for this project include orange, which is tangerine orange, which is 0025, 0212 olive green, 0120 canary yellow, and 0207, which is celadon green. The 3203 over here, which is a streaky glass, which includes things like woodland brown and black. I'll be using that for a feature, so I'll be cutting a small piece out of that for our feature. The equipment you'll need is pretty basic. You'll need a mould of some sort. In this case, this mould here I had made, and I'll talk about that in another video. You'll need something for damming everything up so it stays in place. I've got cut up pieces of a kiln shelf, and then I'll probably use some bits of glass or something like that to also help hold everything together. Something else that would be handy would be a grinder. You may want to grind the edges, or I should say ends, of the strips to a 45 to meet our pattern. You'll see when I cut these, I'll cut them in multiples of 2, and that'll make it easier for me when I go to snap them. But you'll see how I do that. Now I've got all my strips cut, and I've got my feature cut and the backing piece for that, and this will go face down on here because it's the bottom side that we want to have all of the nice straight lines. So that'll go down on there, and then I'll slowly assemble all this. And the way that's going to go is I'm going to put in white strips where the lines are, and then cut all these to suit so I build the pattern up. And where I meet a 45-degree angle, I'm going to have to put a slight 45-degree angle on the end of the strip. Now I could not do that, and that would be fine. It's just that the join in those areas will not be as fine as it possibly could. You might see a little bit more of a waviness in the joins. Now I've put a little mark on each side of the line to show me which side of the line the strip goes, the board, that's the dividing strip. And that's going to help me as I lay this up. As I put in each strip, I'll have to support it from one side as I slowly build up the pattern on the other side. And you'll see that as we go along. So at the end of this process, what you should see is all of these dams in here, like this, and everything's built up, and we've put some thin fire paper around the edge here to stop it sticking to our dams. At that point, it can all go in the kiln. Now with this section here, I will have to put 45-degree angles on the strip because the strip's going to go in that way and butt up against those dividing lines. So just show you how I get a 45-degree angle on the end of these. I use my little grinding machine. I use the grid as my guide to get that 45-degree angle, and then I just grind a little bit off the ends. You could do this in a number of ways. You could actually do it on the ring saw if you've got a ring saw, and you could do it in sandpaper if you really want to punish yourself. And you could also not do it, as I said before, and just butt them up as best you can, and but it'll still look pretty good. Finally, it's all finished. Now we'll get it into the kiln. fuse piece doesn't look great when we first get out of the kiln. It's got wobbly edges, the lines are all wobbly as well, so it doesn't look great, but when we turn it over, because the feature was on the bottom, you can see that it looks a lot better. The lines are more straight, the feature stands out. But now we have to grind all these sides, all these edges. I'll be grinding them all on the flat lap, and then I'll be sandblasting it before I put it in the kiln again for a fire polish. For those of you who haven't seen me do this before, this is a diamond flat lap, and when I'm doing this, sit down here, I'll be keeping this as square as I can to the flat lap. This will be water fed to keep everything cool and lubricated, and I'll just go around, make sure I get everything nice and square, and all the edges, or I should say all the corners, a nice 90-degree angle, before I then sandblast it. Just wanted to show you this before I put it in the kiln. I'm using the tea towel here because I've cleaned it. This has all been squared off on the edge, which I'm sure you can see there. Sandblasted. And I don't know whether I can get that. You might be able to just see very small pinprick holes there in the feature. That's what happens after the sandblasting, and it's basically just little bubbles in the glass. Can't do anything about it. They may close over when we fire polish it, they may not. But I don't want to fire polish this too high because I do want to keep some of the crisp edges. Don't want it to round right over. So we'll get that in the kiln and we'll get it all nicely fire polished. That's after the fire polish. It's polished up okay. Because I didn't take it very high, there's a little bit of texture left in there. But to get rid of that meant that I would have really had to take it up much higher, and I would have lost that nice crisp edge there. So now it's just get it in the mould and we'll slump it. Now, before I get into some more comments on this piece, I have a little story to tell you. I previously used a little microphone like this plugged into my iPhone, and that was the limits of what I had for a microphone, and it worked fine. But the other day, I dropped it, and the little jack broke off. Well, that's about $100 to replace. So I spent a bit of time looking around Toowoomba here where I live, looking for another one. Couldn't get one or get anything like it. So I was a bit stuck considering I was in the middle of making this video. And I thought about it for a minute and I thought, I wonder whether this little Bluetooth headphone thing here would work. Now I'm told by the experts it won't because there would be a lag in the sound between that and the video. Anyway, I'm a skeptic, so I gave it a go, and guess what? It works. And you know how much that cost? $15. So the lesson there is the expert's not always right, and sometimes a simple solution is the best. So tell me what you think of that platter, whether you would have done anything differently, maybe use different colours, and certainly a different feature. I'd really like to know your opinion, so please put it in the comments below. Now, as I said, this could have been done in a couple of different ways. The way we've done it today is a bit laborious, but it's good if you don't have a diamond saw to cut a slab up, because the other way is you could put all of the strips together into like a slab and then cut out each of those little individual sections out of that and then assemble them back together and fuse it. But that means you need a diamond saw to cut them out, or a ring saw like I've got. You can cut it with a ring saw. And I know a lot of people don't have that sort of equipment. So this is an easy way of doing it. It requires a steady hand, of which I don't have at the moment, so it was a bit of a challenge for me. Everything would sort of move suddenly because I did a little bit of a shake. But it's achievable. And as far as the edges are concerned, if you spend a little bit more time and maybe do some 45-degree angles on those strips on the very edge, then you wouldn't have so much to grind off at the end. I'm a little lazy. I have my diamond lap down there, so I don't mind a rough edge because I can easily grind it off. Now the next video is going to be your second choice, which is that white platter with the sepia colour lady and the rose on it. It will be something different, of course. Not too sure what that's going to be at the moment, but I'm hoping to show you in the video how I source images and then how I prepare them for printing onto the decal paper. So don't forget, if you want to watch a couple of more videos right now, you'll find them up there, and the subscribe button in the middle. And until the next video, I'll say bye for now.